I'm Chief Master Sergeant Shae Gee, the 6th Air Refueling Wing Command Chief.
And I'm Technical Sergeant Shawna Wise, an Airman Leadership School instructor here at MacDill Air Force Base.
And this is Lead Conversations.
So I've heard bits of your story whenever I was at the Senior NCO Professional Development.
Okay.
And you are the first person in a leadership position that I've ever heard share their story that was related to domestic violence. So that was impactful to me because at the squadron level, the group level, especially not the wing level, I've never heard a leader share in that way. So that was cool for me to experience. Well, where did you grow up? I don't even know where you grew up.
Okay, so I grew up in Houston, Texas. So
I'm from Lufkin, Texas.
I was born in Wyoming, but at 3 we moved to Texas. So I stayed there. I enlisted from Houston. I left home at 16, and I was too good for rules, so decided to leave home with my boyfriend at the time. And it was interesting because we spent all that time together. All I knew was being with him. Mm-hmm. And then didn't really understand that it was physically and mentally abusive relationship until I was kind of through with dealing with it. And I had a friend say, well, why don't you join the Air Force? You can get away from it all. I was like, that's a good idea. So I went to a recruiter and joined the Air Force. But it didn't kind of stop there. What was interesting, though, was the fact is I got away. I was happy, having fun, enjoying life. We got married in Las Vegas in the little white chapel, if you will. And after that, he went back home and didn't really necessarily want to do the Air Force life. Didn't want to live out there and everything. And
you were in Vegas?
And I was in Vegas. I was a one striper, an airman. And so doing my own thing, came out, and I finally said, you don't want to be here, you don't want to be with me. Let's just, stop moving on. So he actually came out, and I didn't know he came out. He stalked me for 3 days, watched everywhere I went, climbed on the roof of my friend's house and was watching us, watching TV.
It's terrifying.
And then finally I went back to my apartment, and then he held me at gunpoint with the AK-47 for a couple days. So I was considered AWOL. I didn't show up to work, so finally had leadership. Some supervisors come look for me. And so when they found me, they hid me on base for 3 days. Went through protective orders to make sure he couldn't get on base. He's a civilian. And then he went back home after that. And so really it was kind of traumatic, but I was glad that I had supervisors that came and looked for me to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
So I say it was a bad experience, but it kind of made me stronger. And then knew that there's other people to support you out there. Well, share your story.
Yeah, so we have quite a few overlaps. So I'm from Lufkin, Texas, which is 2 hours north of Houston, and I enlisted out of Shreveport because it's closer to Lufkin. But I met my son's father when I was 17, and a few months later I got pregnant, and so I was going into my senior year of high school. And I was pregnant, and this is East Texas. The best thing to do is to get married, and it's. My mom told me, she's like, you're gonna regret this. Like you're going to regret this, and I was like, yeah, right. Watch this, and we got married, and I finished high school early, and then because I had my son in March, and. Before that, so when I was pregnant, there were not really issues. I would see him get angry, but it was never directed towards me, and it never scared me. It was just somebody getting upset, and people get upset, that's normal. But after I had Lucas, things started to escalate more, and I think it was stress-induced, I was 18 at that time, and he was 20, 21. I mean, we were really young, and this is a lot of stress. Not victim blaming myself here or saying that's okay, but I think that escalated it. And so I don't even remember what was going on, but there was a time where I was holding Lucas. He was he was tiny, like maybe 3 months old, and he hit me. And it was like almost like in that moment where I was like, this isn't gonna work. Like, this is not sustainable. Then, he was in jail. I bailed him out of jail making minimum wage, right? So we were super strapped for cash, and so that's like that financial kind of strain on you. And I was like, this isn't the life that I wanted. I was on food stamps, like I was on Medicaid, and I didn't want to do that. And I had wanted to go to college, like I wanted to do other things. And so he actually brought up, it's so interesting, he brought up joining the military, and I was like, okay, this is actually a great idea, because I'll have insurance, I'll have a job. I always respected people in uniform. I mean, especially in Texas, like lots of patriotism there. So, I respect this, I look up to this, and I can get away. And so I joined, and that was scary too, because my son was with him. My son was also with like my family a little bit, but he was with him. And so I came back for Exodus. So I was home for Christmas, and he had been drinking, and he got out of the car, because I couldn't drive the car because it was a stick. And I didn't want him to drive, but he, the back and forth. And so he had went to get out of the car, and I got to where I could shut the door behind him, and I had the keys, and I rolled the window. Well, the windows were rolled up, but on my side it was like open about this much. And he was arguing with me through the window, and like I just didn't want him to drive because he had been drinking. And he somehow got his arm in the window and grabbed my arm and pulled it out, and it like bruised my whole arm. In that moment I didn't know that yet, but he did that. I dropped the keys. I like jumped out the other side, and I ran home. I ran to my mom's house where my son was, because in my head I was like, he's gonna get there and he's gonna take Lucas. And what am I gonna do? And I got there. He wasn't there, thank God, but my brother was there, and he saw my arm. And I had already had the plan to, as soon as I get to my duty station, as soon as I get to my first duty station, I have my son in my custody, I have him, then I'm filing for divorce. And that's what I did. As soon as I got to Vance, got to my first assignment, filed for divorce, and that was that. So what happened? What did it look like for you after? Because like it happened in that was fast, but that was also really traumatic. But what did your kind of like healing arc look like?
I surrounded myself with friends. You spend a lot of time as an airman in the dorms, and going back and forth with them, hanging out with them. But really, I had a supervisor that took the time and talked with me and kept chatting with me, because I felt like I was alone, and I didn't have my family out there. It was just me. So I really had to rely on them, and not just stay in my dorm room, and then just think about it constantly. Makes you a little nervous, makes you scared, makes you maybe not want to get in other relationships because you don't know what's going to happen. I was with him 5 years before all that went down. And then there's the realization of what happened. Was it my fault? Did I stay with him too long? And I think we all think that, right? We're in a relationship, you want to make it work. You don't want people to think like it's a failure. It always seems to rehash and bring back like the feelings of hurt, of having to deal with it over the years. So how do you deal with it?
try. So for me, I've made a good life for myself, and I've worked really hard to make healthy decisions for myself and for my son. And that was, I think, really like the driving behind all of it was to keep Lucas safe, because I didn't want him to see his mom abused. I didn't, well, and it wasn't even that those were the words in my mind. It was just, I cannot show, I don't want to model this for my son. So over the years, it's just remembering, like, I trust in myself, and I trust that my decision-making process is a good one, or as good as it can be. You know, I'm gonna make mistakes, but that my heart is to keep my son safe, and as long as I'm remembering that, I'm gonna make decisions that are healthy for myself. But
You know, after, moved on and had kids, like, there was never a gun in the house. Like, all the way through, the boys were grown. We didn't have guns in the house. Like, I could handle doing, the M16 M4 firing, because that was at the range. That was a requirement. And then I didn't start feeling comfortable with them in the house till they were grown and away. But it's the reactions, the decisions that he made for my life that continue to be there. But I feel for, you watch the news or you talk to other folks that feel like when a woman is abused, or a family member is abused, that, it's their fault. They're staying in it. There's, it's victim blaming. Like, she should have known. And it takes you back to, every situation is different. And sometimes you don't feel like there's an escape. It's like, this is your life. This is what you were meant to do. And I remember in the Air Force, I didn't want attention. I just wanted to do my job. I just wanted to be able to do something and it be separate. I didn't want awards. I didn't want recognition. I was just there to do a job. And sometimes that's hard when you have to think back on, well, is he going to show up? Yeah, you say he can't get on base. Well, are you going to be able to protect me? And what if they hadn't the first time?
Yeah.
So.
The revisiting of it to that piece is so hard, because you'll go maybe days or weeks, years not thinking about it, and then there will be something and it will just kind of stop you. And I mean, I've been to therapy, and when I catch myself getting into that, it's like, okay, where am I sitting? Okay, I'm sitting in a chair. What do I smell? What do I see? And to ground myself in where I'm at, because it's scary, like getting back into that cycle of thought, because I don't want to live there anymore. I sometimes get nervous sharing some of the experiences that I've had, because I've had this experience, and I've lost my brother to suicide, and I sometimes it's like, well, I have all of, like, I feel ashamed to share. Like, am I bringing these things on myself? So, like, I don't know if you've ever had that experience where it's like, I do this to myself.
Yeah, I had another marriage after him where I had my young son, and it didn't work out. And just because I'm bringing the baggage, thinking through, what happens, right? And so going into the third one, it's been amazing. I think I've been more honest and talking through things, and he knows everything that happened. And then, and that's now, 23, almost 24 years ago, right? So you learn to get past it. But I think all of our experiences, make us stronger. They made us who we are. But you have to be able to share your story, because so many other airmen, whether male or female, come in with similar situations, that are just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And for me, my first 4 years it's about survival. And then I had supervisors and talking with a chaplain, and that's the biggest thing is what your support community is, right? Getting help, figuring out that you actually need help.
Yeah.
That was a struggle, right? Just thought it was part of growing up. Whether it's the chaplain or military one source, we have a lot of stuff now that I didn't have back when I went through all this. But luckily I had a good support factor in my supervisor and friends to get through it. But there's a lot that we have now. But I appreciate you sharing and talking about it with me. I think hopefully maybe this will help other folks know that they can find someone to talk to or vent to, or come talk to us.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's great to know that even a command chief can start as a one striper and have all of these barriers, but not let them hold her back, and have a leader like you. So thank you for sharing your story.